Hello everyone, it's Elizabeth, aka Poetry in Motion, and welcome back to my midweek roundup, a video series where every Wednesday, or Thursday in this case, I talk about the last week's chapter of the Clan Jaren series, read your comments, and answer your questions. So this week's update was Braids, and let me just talk about that for a second before we get into the comments. Things got a little spicy on the Mandamera front. Things got a little spicy. The idea of Din braiding Omera's hair was one of the first that I had when I was coming up with this little in-between series, The Journey On. It's always been lingering back there in the back of my mind. You know, the possibilities that could be connected to it, the different threads that I could pull from Din's character and from Omera's character. But along with that idea was that Din would sort of expand his physical horizons in this instance as well. There's just something really special about allowing someone else to touch your hair. Allowing somebody to, somebody else to brush your hair, allowing somebody else to braid it, to play with it, to touch it, it's something very personal and it's something very close, and it made sense to me that Din would sort of lean into that and sort of move his attentions. As he pulls her hair back, he finds this little spot right here and is like, huh, interesting. It made sense to me that he would lean into that. However, it also made sense to me that Din would get really overwhelmed real quickly with the physical attention, because he's not used to people even really touching his armor, much less interacting in the way that he and Omera do. So even though it's been a few weeks, it's been about, I'd say, a month and a half since they left Sorgan, even though it's been about a month and a half, that conflict is still there. That desire pulling against his own fears and anxieties, that's a lifelong thing. It's not gonna just go away. But those anxieties are well-founded and they're valid. Not everything ends in sex. Not every relationship has to have it, That's really important to me, to honor Din's limits and Din's morals with this whole thing. As much as, even I'm sometimes like, oh my god, just do it, just be together, kiss and stuff. Even though I'm even sometimes like that, I know that that's not realistic for him. And it's really important to respect that as a writer. So with that preamble, let's get into the comments. Sheena, lovely Sheena is a punk rocker, writes, with I think 20 H's and 4 heart eye emojis. Now, I can't be sure because she's just so subtle. But I think just from that first sentence, she liked it. I don't know, though. I'm not very good at picking up context. She goes on to say, I was waiting so anxiously for this chapter, and you did not disappoint. I need more Mandamera content like this ASAP. I adore the family fluff and Din being tentative and shy, but this is what I was waiting for. Oh boy. Afra big kada beka jissa off gala gnikt kadim bagag. Did you really think I'd let you off the hook without a key smash? No. I think that's going to become a recurring segment on this series, the Sheena's a punk rocker key smash. I absolutely knew it was coming. So, Sheena, I am so glad that you loved this chapter, and I am able to tell you that you are going to get more of this explicitly and specifically romantic content like this in Sanctuary. However, I would also caution that, like I said earlier, progress on the Mandamera front is not always linear. Things might pull back a little bit. The last one-shot for The Journey On, out on Saturday, is going to be kind of a further discussion between Din and Omera about what they want their limits to be right now, so that we don't end up with another situation like we had in Braids where Din kind of had to break off because he was really anxious about it. I promise you, though, that more content like last week's chapter is incoming, so keep reading, please. Alright, Kit 1 says, it wasn't sappy, it was sweet and just so well written. The braiding, how he just watched her, the kiss, I loved it. Well, thank you, Kit. So, this chapter was a little hard for me to write. Not because the idea wasn't really well established in my head, or because I didn't know what I was doing or where I wanted to go with it. It was for the simple fact that I am not super great at writing physical romance scenes. Yeah, we'll put it like that for now. I am practicing and I try my best, but I know that it's not necessarily one of my strong suits as a writer, you know? Every writer has things that they are just naturally good at. Every writer has something that they have to practice and practice and practice over and over again. And that's one of the things that I need a little more practice on. So when I posted Braids, I was really anxious about it. I was so worried that it was going to come across as trite or sappy and people were going to stop reading, you know? So it's a relief that it didn't come across like that. I'm really glad for that. It means I'm making progress. As for, you know, the part where Kit talked about how Din just kind of watched her, Calico 321 also touched on that. Aw, so bittersweet. What a great word for it. Like, that's really what this was, bittersweet. And she continues, the wanting but the fear at the same time. They'll get there, patience is key. Exactly. I love how fascinated he is by her little details. Feel, smell, taste. Goes to show how sensorily he's been deprived. And no, that's not a word, but I couldn't find a better description, lol. Makes perfect sense to me, Calico. So, the watching Omera wash her hair in the creek and just kind of being utterly enraptured by it, that was actually inspired by an anecdote that my great, absolutely incredible professor, Dr. Megan, told us once when we were discussing Adam and Eve's relationship in the early books of Paradise Lost, which, if you haven't read Paradise Lost, okay, it's a beast, she thick, but you have to read it. I don't say that a lot about a lot of things, but Paradise Lost, boy, you are going to love it. I can't get enough of Milton, you know? We were discussing, in the class anyway, we were discussing the relationship between Adam and Eve in book 5, book 4, and how pure it was, you know? The phrase that Milton uses is cleanly wantonness. God, I freaking love Milton so much. Hi, English major here. Major nerd. So, in trying to describe that, Megan added his own anecdote to describe how Adam saw Eve, you know, before Satan comes into the mix. Megan found himself in a really similar situation to Din, you know, where his girlfriend at the time, now his wife, woke up before them when they were camping, was kind of washing her hair in the creek, and he's just captivated by her. He's like, holy shit, she's so beautiful. And Megan is, I feel like I can't talk about Megan enough because he is an incredible mentor and teacher, and he really imparted on me how important it is to find the sublime in the everyday. So when you do that, something as simple as washing your hair becomes transcendent, you know? And I think that effect is doubled with Din because he's both a man who notices small details, and that serves him really well as a bounty hunter, as a warrior, as a Mandalorian. But he's also a man who is basically seeing things like this for the first time. You know, the effect of finding the sublime in the everyday is doubled, tripled by the fact that Din has never really had the time or the reason to do so before. And that's part of why this relationship between himself and Omera is so challenging, but so worth it and so rewarding. He's thrilled to be feeling these things. He finds it so exciting, you know, and it's so great. But at the same time, he's never really been taught how to deal with those kinds of feelings. He's never really incorporated them into his world and into his interior life. So that's actually going to be expanded on this Saturday with the Journey On one-shot before Sanctuary comes out on the 20th. Keep your eyes out for it. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and take it over to Tumblr. A couple days ago, I was messaging with Tumblr and AO3 user Nikki Bogwater. She's pretty great. And in our discussion, she asked me what line or scene I'm most proud of in the Clan Jaren series, and I thought I would share my answer with you guys. So it was really tough for me to narrow it down because I'm really proud of all of it. I'm a poet mostly by my nature and by practice, but this is the most cohesive and the best prose I have ever put together. So anytime anyone asks me, oh, what are you working on? I'm like, here, my fan fiction, read it. But eventually I ended up zeroing in on chapter 7, 11, and 12 in the Aftermath. I felt like with chapter 7, I gave Omera a lot of meat to work with, and it felt really cool to flesh her out more, you know. Omera has a great character in episode 4 of, oh my god, I just realized. Episode 4 is called Sanctuary, and now I'm writing a book called Sanctuary. What is this? Oh my god. I'm not changing it. But the 4th episode of The Mandalorian gave Omera a really great characterization, but I felt like with chapter 7, I was able to give her a little bit more, you know? And then chapter 11, I think if I had to narrow it down to one chapter, it would be chapter 11, because it was one of the first parts I wrote when I started writing in the Aftermath. I knew from the beginning that chapter 11 was going to be there. I debated for a very long time as to whether Din was going to take off his helmet or not. That was a really important issue for me, so I wanted to make sure that it happened in a way that's justified for his character, you know. And when I did eventually decide that yes, he was going to take it off, I did not want it to be in a romantic situation, because I'd already seen it done, you know, and well done, sure. It was very well written and well done, but in my analysis, Din is not really a romantic by nature, you know. He wouldn't have the presence of mind to say, wouldn't it be romantic if I took off my helmet in front of Omera? He didn't really have the presence of mind to do that. But he does have a really soft spot for kids, and especially a kid in danger. So when Winta is, you know, she's wounded, she's in distress, she's freaking out, it just happens. And it feels natural, and it feels like a no-brainer, you know? It feels like, yes, this was always how it was supposed to happen, you know? Now, I'm gonna keep talking about Nikki Bogwater for a few minutes more, because later that day when we were chatting, after we were done, she did something absolutely amazing, and she drew fan art of Clan Jaren, and I don't think I can fully explain how absolutely feral I went when I got that notification. So I was in the van with my parents and my neighbor, who's like a sister to me. We were out running errands, you know, we were sitting in the parking lot, and I open up that notification on my phone, and it's this absolutely adorable drawing of Din and Winta, and let me tell you, I screamed. I literally screamed. Like, you know when people type LOL kind of as a punctuation mark rather than telling somebody that they literally laughed out loud? You know, normally it's mostly like a kind of thing. No, I really screamed, genuinely. And my family was like, what the hell are you doing? What the hell's going on? And since they're very supportive of my work with this series and my work on fanfiction, I showed them the little picture. I showed them, Nikki, somebody drew fan art of my fanfiction and I'm gonna cry. They celebrated with me. They were like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And I'm like, yeah, I know. She's so cool. So yeah, I didn't come down from that high until I went to bed at around 10 that night. But then, okay, I get another notification, right? And it's Nikki back at it again, and she drew an illustration of Braids, and I almost screamed again. But I held it in because the rest of my family was in bed too, and I didn't want to give anybody a heart attack, even though I just about had one. Plus, she added this really great addendum to Braids where Winter wakes up and sees Din and Omera lying there in the grass, and I'm looking at it right now, and that last panel, this look of sheer what the hell on her face, it's just so perfect. Well, I would show it to you guys on this video, but I don't know how to edit videos. I'm not a technology person. So I will link it in the description. Go look at it. It's so great. Maybe someday I'll figure out how to be a YouTuber, but right now it's not happening. I'm so honored and flattered and excited and just so happy that my work inspired you. Everybody, if you're on Tumblr, go follow Nikki Bogwater. Her Mandalorian art is fantastic, especially her interpretation of Baby Yoda. They are so cute, you know? I'm linking her profile down below. Go give her all the love. Do it. So on that note, I think I'm gonna wrap it up for this week. Friends, if you have any questions about anything, my ask box on Tumblr and my DMs on Twitter are open for business. And as always, I love reading your comments, so please comment. If it's to say that you loved it, great. If it's to offer constructive criticism, also great. I will read your comment and I will love your comment. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you Saturday.